what makes Yonkers such a great place. But we need the hospitals to be part of the process. We need the community-based organizations to be part of the process. We need the non-for-profit to join in making sure that the mother a woman is pregnant, that person is identified, and that we offer services to that person. Because the research is clear, and those of us who have children, we know that it is the case. Reading to children begins when they are in the womb. Mm-hmm. It doesn't start after they are 3. It starts right away. We need to start beginning. However, we are in an urban community, and there are adults that need to learn how to do that.
Right.
Giving a child additional vocabulary. The research says that my child will have a vocabulary by age 4 that is exponentially higher than a child that does not grow up in a house with individuals who are educators, let's say. Mm-hmm. But we can compensate for that by providing training. So we're going to focus on milestone 1 and ensure that it's implemented with fidelity. Milestone 2 is ensuring that our students enter school.
Before you continue on milestone 2, I'm sorry, just to butt in for a second. So essentially, to make sure that kids are ready to learn before they get to kindergarten, what the school will be doing will be working.
Exactly.
The first year in college. We need to do a better job of monitoring those young people and ensuring that they are graduating from college. And then milestone 5 and 6, they are associated with keeping our community safe and make sure that there are jobs and opportunities for those young people once they graduate. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right. What happens after they
milestone
graduate?
6, you said, is what? Keep them safe?
It's keeping the whole community safe.
The whole community safe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So essentially, what I'm hearing with all of these milestones, there's a level of community buy-in that has to happen, and community partnerships. It can't all be on the school district or just on the parent. It's on everybody.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. When you think of milestone 1, that belongs to the community. Mm-hmm. That belongs to the overall community. When you think of milestone 5 and 6, that also belongs to the community. So we, as the school system, we have to do a better job enlisting the support of the community leaders. We have to open our doors as school systems so that they are welcome into our schools and they're ready to contribute.
Awesome. I agree. And I think that we can get there.
Yeah.
And I hope that people are hearing and listening and paying attention to this conversation because it's so crucial for how we move forward as a city. So thank you for that. I have some other questions. Just really quickly, I know you mentioned the Justice Sonia Sotomayor School, that it's, under construction. Do you know the exact date or time frame as to when it's going to be complete, when we're going to open up?
The Sonia Sotomayor is scheduled to open in September of 2024.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Absolutely.
All right, I think I missed that.
Yeah, you did.
Dr. Cansado, can you bring the mic closer to you, please?
My apologies.
Okay.
Yes, so the Sonia Sotomayor School is expected to open in September of 2024, expected to open with students in grades pre-K through 6.
Great,
And then we grow the school from there.
right, and that will significantly help the rest of the school district, as because families are always concerned every year when they have to enroll and they're fighting to get into one school and nobody wants to go to that school. But this will really help your administration figure out how to schedule, not schedule, but organize the classrooms in such a way where you can focus in more on the students, the classrooms won't be overcrowded and so on and so forth.
Janae,
Can you just expand on that a little bit, on the benefits of a new school for Yonkers and what that means?
Well, that's the first thing that I think the city needs to celebrate, all of us, and you are all partly responsible for ensuring that that's happening. So it has to be a celebration to see a brand new school in Southwest Yonkers. A brand new school in Southwest Yonkers. That's a big accomplishment, and it's going to open doors for children in that community.
So it's walkable. We can cut back on the transportation.
It should. I mean, and by the
But
way,
you can't.
that is something that we are looking at. How do we
Do that.
ensure that the enrollment does not result in additional transportation? But we are still a school of choice.
Right.
So a young person from the east side of Yonkers can come to the Sonia Sotomayor School.
Right.
So choose.
Right, we have to find that balance, absolutely. So I know you spoke a little bit about the video lottery funding that we get from Empire Casino, the $19.6 million. We're the only district that get funding from the casino for our schools, right? That was the original deal. Is that correct?
We are the only host community that gets $19.6 million.
Other communities.
The state tells us that it's not the casino giving us the money.
It's the state.
The state giving us to us.
But they give other communities funding from other casinos? Is that how that works? And they're getting significantly how much more? Do we know?
Wow.
Sure.
Yonkers gets additional funding because they are the host community.
aid currently
However,
for a
there is
host
a sum of
community,
money that's taken by the
$19.6 million.
state and spread out. to
The
school
one thing though that I
districts.
want to point out is
There you go,
in
Shanae.
this new budget that the state just adopted, partially as a result of the lobbying efforts that the mayor did, they're changing that formula. And if we are to receive the license for full gaming, Yonkers will receive about 10%, or will receive 10% of the formula that they come up with. We don't know those details yet, but we are hoping that it will result in a significant increase in state aid as a result of having the casino in our city.
Okay.
Again, the mayor.
So people get 10% as opposed to other communities getting it, what percentage?
Anyone that gets the licenses on
okay.
the casinos and they
Oh, yeah.
receive it. That's not specific to Yonkers, where the 19.6 had been. It potentially could double the amount that we get, but we don't know what those numbers are yet.
Okay, that's good news. It's hopeful.
Very good news.
What?
And again, it has to do with the efforts that the mayor has made in Albany to change it, because originally the money was going to be funneled to the county, and there's been a reversal so that the host cities are going to receive a substantial amount of aid.
That's great.
And just for a quick background, Nick Spano and his lobbying firm, Empire Strategic Planning, were the lobbying firm for the casino. Recently, that's changed, but the reason why we got such little money before is because Nick Spano represented the casino. And in order for Nick Spano, the mayor's brother, to do a good job, and for other clients to potentially hear about how great of a job he did against, having the casino pay so much money to his host city, he kept it relatively low to just under $20 million, 19 point something, when we should have been getting a lot more, tons more. We probably should have been getting even more than the double amount that they're talking about we might be getting now. Let's just be real. They're cheating us. And that was because Empire Strategic Planning represented the casino.
Thank you, Mayor Spano, for your efforts, right?
Yeah, well, now that the lobbying firm doesn't represent them, of course Mayor Spano's going to play
okay.
You don't know what to ask. You asked a bunch of bogus questions. About
really
the fucking
quickly,
budget.
You mentioned that
Are fair and that they are fiscally responsible.
okay, and obviously you can't go into the details of what's being negotiated, right? But maybe you can, I'm gonna ask a question anyways, and if you can tell me, or whatever. But we know that the majority of the budget for our schools is made up of the salary for our, for the staff. And it's a significant part of the budget. What percentage of it? I don't even remember.
So 75%.
75% of the budget, right? So is that part of the challenge in this year's conversation about contracts? Is it going back to salaries, or are there other outstanding issues?
You hear that,
I would
teachers?
say that there are two expenses in our budget that will always create concerns as it relates to settling anything, and that is benefits and salaries.
Okay.
And they are the two highest appropriation that we make with the budget.
Understood. Well, we need we need our employees, we need our teachers, we need our teamsters, we need all of them to so that we can function. We can't do anything without them. So obviously we want to see that something fair and sensible get worked out.
We don't need $80,000 and
I guess I'll just
$90,000 council
look
aides.
forward to learning more about that and seeing what comes of that over the next few weeks or months. Hopefully weeks, right? Days.
How many
That's
cars
my
has
hope.
Sinead crashed?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How much did that cost
So
the city?
the all right, so a lot of parents often complain about the school's inability to really work with them in a timely manner when it comes to children who are struggling or children that might need an IEP, and that entire process, it's a lot, it's difficult. I don't know the process. I haven't had to go through it. I'm not a parent advocate, but we get a lot of complaints about it, right?
Parents who go
Can
through
you walk me through what that process is like in the district and how, and just maybe let us know if you have the staff and the capacity to really do the work that, and make sure parents are getting these responsive from central staff or whoever in a timely frame. Like, can you just walk through that whole?
Sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Dr. Rodriguez to send you, the council, through the council president, the process of evaluating a young person.
Okay.
For the purpose of special education. A pretty quick condensed document that allows you to see it.
I would also like the parents who may be listening to kind of know too what they need to do and how the process works, because a lot of times I think there's a barrier when you don't know something, right? So it's important.
So let me share with you to your point of whether we need more staffing. The providing special education services will always need additional staff. In our district, because the numbers continue to increase. We want to see more social workers in our schools that will facilitate the evaluation process as well. We want to see more psychologists in our schools, even though we have done exceptionally well with your support. We want to have more space also in our district so that we don't spend so much money sending students out of district. So we want to do that. Sometimes the confusion is, a parent writes a letter I want my child to be evaluated for special education. That's the day that they remember. But the clock does not start when you sign the letter. The clock starts when you receive the document and you return them fully signed to the special education department. And the process should be about 60 days from the moment that you sign the letter to completion. More than anything. What happens is that in many instances, a parent signs a letter, I want my child to be evaluated, which sometimes is not the right thing to do. We firmly believe that young people should not be evaluated until they have had the opportunity to demonstrate that they do need to be evaluated. We always say that a child should be in the classroom about 6 weeks, to go through the entire MTSS process. And then if the evaluation is required, then by all means, So the parent signs the letter, sends it to special education. Special education prepares the package, returns the package to the parent for signature, and then the 60 days begin. One of the things we face often is that the package gets sent to the parent and the parent does not return it, or it takes a month to return it. I want to remind parents that when you don't return that, your placement on the evaluation schedule, becomes solid once you return the package. That you cannot sit on the package and not return it, because that will create situations for us. Sometimes it's our fault. We might not have the staffing that is needed to conduct the evaluation. And sometimes we schedule evaluation and then the adults do not follow through with it. The schedule is there, the person is there, the person is supposed to be there for, let's say, do a psychological or a social history, and the person is not there. So understand that for an urban community, there are significant issues that may impact the timely evaluation process of a young person. However, in the past 10 years, under the direction of Dr. Rodriguez, we have transformed our process, and it is evident by the monthly resolutions that the trustees approved, which include the number of students that are now ready to receive services. Every year, that number continues to go up.
Thank you for that explanation, Superintendent. I have a couple more questions, and then I'm going to let my colleagues get their chance to ask their questions. But you mentioned the American, what was it, the rescue plan? What was it?
American Rescue Plan.
The American Rescue Plan, and what page was it on, where you kind of broke down for us, here it is, all of the different positions that you were able to hire and all the programs that you were able to bring back to the schools, such as art, music, sports, and social workers, and all these different things. My question is, are all of the schools getting the same resources when it comes to like art and music? Which schools are getting those programs? Is it elementary, high school, or all of them?
When it came to art, music, and physical education and psychologists, every school benefited from additional full-time equivalent positions, every single one of them.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know. Because oftentimes people say, and I don't know what's true or not, but that their school isn't getting the same equitable resources as another school. And that's why they fight so hard to get their kids into X, Y, and Z school over the others, right? But we are making sure that we're distributing resources equitably across the board for all of our schools. Yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, we cannot be a district who believes in diversity, equity, and inclusion and then not follow equitable distribution of resources to do it. And oftentimes, those schools that the parents believe that are receiving more services, they are actually receiving less support than schools that,
you hear that, all you folks at the Charo?
They are schools that need academic support, and sometimes they have grants, and they receive a lot more services than others, actually.
That's interesting. Well, I think I just want, I guess the takeaway that I would like to end on for my line of questioning is that our schools again, I started off this way and I'm going to end this way. We're doing an amazing job in all of our schools, despite the fact that we have significantly less funding for the size of the district that we are compared to other schools, right? School districts. And I think that's a testament to the work that your team has been doing, the support that you get from the council and the mayor's office. And I think it's important for the public to understand that. Maybe we just need to continue to put the information out there, put, the positive stuff, because there's a lot of positive things happening in our public schools. Just yesterday I had, I was, able to welcome dozens of kids from the MBK from School 24 here, as they did a mock trial of creating their own laws, and a bunch of fourth, fifth graders, and they were so happy. They loved it. Everybody wanted to be the council president. Nobody wanted to be, Shanae Williams, but it's okay. they get to, hit the gavel as council president. So, but they got a feel for what we do here in government. And I think the more that we're able to expose our kids to different things that we do in the community and in different sectors of different, in every field, I think the better it is, because it will really give them that hope and motivation to move forward and do the best they can as children and grow up to be the leaders of tomorrow that they are, right? Yep. So I just want to say thank you again for what you're doing. If I think of any other questions that I think that can't wait, I will let you know, but for now, I'm done. So thank you, Madam Council President. That's it for me.
And thank you for your support, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
That's
Next,
Councilwoman Shanae Williams with a bunch of questions that I'm not sure. The IEP one is important. Will the Sotomayor School alleviate any transportation issues? I'm not so sure.
Good afternoon, Dr. Quesada, members of the Board of Education and the finance team. Thank you, Dr. Quesada, for a thorough and deep dive presentation into our Yonkers Public Schools. So I will begin with questions regarding let's begin with our structural challenges, which you talked about the 4 bargaining units with expiring contracts. Can you tell us what the anticipated cost to settle those contracts would be, even if it's just an approximate?
I don't think I'm able to give that information in light of the fact that we have not.
Is there an approximate? Because oftentimes we set aside funds for a contract that we will settle. So without knowing what that dollar amount might is, we can at least anticipate an approximate number, what it might cost the city.
Right. One of the things that I would share with you, Councilwoman Pineda Isaac, is that this administration has always been fiscally responsible at ensuring that what we believe will cost to settle the contract, it's available. But certainly, we never know where we're going to end up in terms of raises. So it's very difficult for us to be able to determine that. However, Mr. Jacobson, you want to share what a 1% raise will result in, 1% increase in salary will result in for the cost of the Board of Education?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Benita Isaac, for the question. A 1% increase for all unions would be approximately $3.5 million.
For all 4?
That is correct.
And then, so when you think about that, 2% is about $7 million, and let's say that's just year 1, then you have to worry about year 2, year 3, year 5, instead of a 5-year contract. So when you think about it, a 5-year contract could potentially cost the city of Yonkers and the BOE over $90 million.
Okay.
For the life of the contract.
Have we set aside funds for the settlement of these contracts?
I think we will always be fiscally responsible and ensure that if we are settling contracts, if we are in the middle of settling contract, that the money is available for us to be able to settle those, at least for year 1 and 2.
So is the money available for years 1 and 2?
I would say that there are amounts there that would allow us to settle those contracts. But it all depends on where we end up.
what
Okay.
that means.
Thank you so much, Dr. Quesada. Dr. Quesada. Let's move on to fund balance. For the purposes of, the average resident who might be watching, can you tell me what fund balance is? What is the total amount that we currently have? What is the ideal use of fund balance? And how much of it are we using in this budget?
Corazon's asking the questions.
So fund balance is amount of money that is saved from year to year based on expenditure. So if a superintendent and the team is fiscally responsible, the goal is to at least not spend, in my opinion, at least 5% of the appropriation. That would be a legitimate goal for a school district.
Are we meeting that goal?
Most of the years, we are not. Before I became a superintendent, the district did not have any fund balance. Fund balance began to be a reality during my superintendency, where we end up with a fund balance. So right now, and fund balance is money that is set aside for the purpose of emergencies. A roof of a school building can blow away at any given point because of a storm. The roof of a school will cost about $3.5 million, depending on the size of the school. We don't appropriate dollars in the consolidated budget for those emergencies.
Right, because they're unforeseen.
They unforeseen. So in the event they happen, we don't want to come to you and say, we need $3.5 million to fix the roof at School 24. We want to have it in fund balance.
Especially
So
given the
capital.
age of our properties.
Right, and thank you for that. In addition to the state of our weather. There are things, not long ago, we had 2 days of full-time rain. Imagine if the water would have come into any of our schools. Imagine the repairs that we need to make to a school that is flooded because of a storm. Right now, the district has about $47 million in unassigned fund balance, which is a combination of about multiple years. I think it's like 3 years.
Can you tell us what unassigned fund balance is?
Unassigned means money that can be utilized by the trustees of the Board of Education for expenses.
Thank you.
Sure. So it's $47 million. We have a gap of about $32 million right now. If the trustees decide to use our money for the purpose of closing the gap, that's going to leave us, for the following year, which is our most concerning year, I would say, with limited fund balance. I do not know what the fund balance will be with this year's budget. Because of the expenses in transportation and the increasing special education students, I would project that our fund balance is not going to be a healthy one for this year.
That's why he said, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Dr. Q said, I'm out of here. I ain't going to be around for
Just to
that.
follow up on what Dr. Quesada is saying, I think we ought to keep in mind that part of the reason that we have a healthy fund balance now is because of the federal money, the ARPA money that we received.
Right.
That money will all be utilized after this year. So we have to keep that in mind as we go forward. And the chart that was just the last chart Dr. Quesada had with all the additional hires that we had, we're looking to see, we want to be able to maintain those positions in our budget.
Right.
So that's one of our big concerns as we go forward. And that fund balance is going to be used to close that gap.
And thank you, because that really leads me to my follow-up question, my next question. And Dr. Quesada, you used, or the board used ARPA funds, which we knew would eventually run out to fund 221 positions. And I remember being at a meeting where you spoke about how we were essentially forced to fund these positions because of how the need. So if you remember that speech, can you talk to us about, why those 221 positions were so important, and why you made the conscious decision to fund this recurring expense with funds that would not be recurring?
Good question.
Thank you for phrasing that question in that manner. And absolutely. I mean, as I indicated before, I could have proposed to the board that we were going to fix windows and that we were going to put air conditioning in schools.
Glad you have to make that choice.
But to us, once we got through the initial emergency of COVID, which is to ensure that fresh air was coming into our schools, and John Carr and his team, they did an incredible job at repairing all of our HVAC systems. So once we did that, and we felt strongly that we were doing what we needed to do to keep everyone healthy in our schools, we said, should we buy air conditioning? Should we fix windows? Or should we give our students what they have been denying for so many years? Our students were denied music and art. Our students were denied access to psychologists and to school counselors. And we said, wait a minute, these young people are coming back to our schools with significant social emotional challenges. If the staffing is not there to create the conditions for those young people to learn, then what are we doing? What kinds of schools are we going to have? We're going to have schools with air conditioning, but without the individuals that can provide the social emotional support for our children and that can provide the academic support. Remember, music and art and physical education is an outlet for some of our young people, particularly in urban communities. So if we don't give them those opportunities, the city will suffer because they will be in the street doing the wrong things. So that's why this was so important to us.
Thank you, Dr. Quesada. And I understand how important those positions were because something that we constantly talk about are, the ratios from guidance counselors to students, psychologists to students, social workers to students. And, those 221 positions were very critical, like I said, to the social emotional being of our students. In the past, the presentation used to include those ratios. Yep. And if my memory serves me correctly, last year, those ratios were, 1 to 845 for guidance counselors, 1 to 845 for psychologists, 1 to 1,931 for social workers, and 1 to 427 for public safety officers. Where are those numbers today?
So I will send those ratios to you by the end of the week so that you have it in front of you. We have significantly improved those ratios.
Wow.
But when I was putting the presentation together, I always say, how many more negative things can I share with the council?
We need to know.
But I think that data is very impactful. So I will have it to you by the end of the week so that you have all those numbers.
Thank you. It is very impactful. And it really shows, how much more we can do, exactly. How much more we should be doing, and how much space there is to continue to provide support for the social and emotional well-being of our students. We're not meeting that capacity at 100%, and I know that is difficult, but I think it's important for us to see those numbers and think about those numbers to push ourselves to increase the city's contribution even more than what we're doing because these numbers are so staggering.
They're important.
We'll have it to you by
and
the
Tasha Diaz
Thank
is the
so
education
much,
committee chair.
What percentage of our teachers at our retirement age, and do we have an anticipation as to how many teachers will be retiring in the coming years, and how are we preparing for those retirements? I ask because I assume a lot of our teachers, I think, are close to retirement age. So I just want to know, what are we doing for the recruitment of new teachers to fill that gap when the time comes?
So for this year, we are expecting 42 teachers to retire. I will send you the scattergram so that you can visualize where we are in terms. The scattergram allows you to see where we are in terms of the age, not the age, but rather the number of years of service in our schools. I'll send that to you as well. And then in terms of what we are doing to attract teachers, well, let me begin by saying that I think that we are a very attractive city, and that our salaries are at the same level as any other community in Westchester County. So I don't think there are deterrents that prevent people from coming into our city. I think we are a very good institution. We are a welcoming city. And if they are candidates, I think they will choose the Yonkers Public Schools. However, we, working collaboratively with the Human Resource Department, we already held a diversity job fair that was in April, and we have another one scheduled for this Saturday. The numbers were very good, the number of candidates that came to the diversity job fair, because we do want to attract candidates of color to come into our schools. So that's why we do diversity job fairs, and we target candidates of color to be part of our community. The issue for us is directly associated with the licensing of the individuals that are coming to the career fairs. So we don't have an issue with elementary education. There are many certified candidates in that area. It's the other more complex area. You cannot find a Spanish teacher anywhere in this area. I mean, it's May, and I still have over 7 vacancies in Spanish. Special education secondary, the reason why we resolved that issue is because of a partnership that Dr. Rodriguez established with Hunter College. The trustees of the Board of Education appropriated dollars to certify our own people. So we certify our own people in secondary special ed. But we still need more certified special education teachers, and we will need them at the elementary level. Science teachers are desperately needed. What else? Physical education, believe it or not, they're not easy to find anymore. Before they used to, so the challenge for us is what the post-secondary institutions are providing, and we hold them accountable, and we have conversations with them. They are not producing enough candidates to take over teaching positions in urban communities. So we need to continue fighting, and most recently, I had a meeting with, one of the, 2 of the vice president of the SUNY school system, because I still do not comprehend why is it that the city of Yonkers does not have a 4-year SUNY school. So we had that conversation, and they're going to look into it, and they're going to evaluate the numbers. But I think as a council, you have a great opportunity to say, we have the space for you to identify the space and the location, and then go to SUNY and say, we need a 4-year school. I think that if we had a 4-year school right here in Yonkers, the teacher shortage in our city can be easily resolved by partnering with that institution. But the closest SUNY school to us is Purchase. That's a SUNY, and it is a school with a very specific concentration. So the closest school to us, SUNY school, that has a teaching program is, what's the name of it? Somewhere around exit 16, 17.
SUNY New Paltz.
SUNY New Paltz. Thank you, Count. So we, in this city, we need a 4-year school urgently, and we need to keep pushing the SUNY school system, now that we have a commissioner that understands this, to ensure that we create one here in the city. And I think the mayor is on board with that 100%.
Thank you, Dr. Quesada. I want to echo your sentiments about the video lottery terminal sharing number, and the fact that that has not, I guess, grown as profits have grown. So I too think that number is ludicrous as we see their profits increase, and that contribution has remained flat. So I am looking forward to the amended formula if we potentially receive that full gaming license. So
thank you.
Then my next question is, I'm looking at the revenue chart, and I don't see how much of the revenue comes from sales tax in this chart. Am I missing it? Am I?
Sure. Councilmember Pineda Isaac, the sales tax for education, once adopted by the council, becomes a permanent part of the maintenance of effort. So it's actually in that. For the current year, our budget in the city we're actually budgeting less sales tax than we budgeted last year. So the amount that was grandfathered in to be transferred from the city to the school district is the same amount. So we're transferring the same amount over. That's part of the large amount of 263.35 million that you see in the chart. So if you want the specific amount,
So from the city of Yonkers MOE, how much of that variance, how much of that is sales tax?
sales tax is about 20.6 million.
Okay, so, but our variance number is 5 million. So,
That is correct. So to elaborate on what I mentioned, the last year's budget was 20.6.
okay,
When the council adopted that budget, that became part of the maintenance of effort. As you know, we generally can't go down below that number. In the current year, the city is only budgeting 20.4, but because last year 20.6 was adopted, 20.6 gets transferred to the schools. So, but the number is not increasing because our budget is down. Our sales tax is projected to be down next year as compared to what we budgeted in '23.
okay. So in essence, the city of Yonkers MOE is a little bit lower than 5 million because some of that is sales tax.
The reality is that the other revenues are increasing an additional $200,000 to keep the maintenance effort up 5 million, besides a base increase of 5 million. Other revenues are paying for the additional $200,000 drop in the sales tax budget.
So I understand. I think what I'm interested in is, how much did the city, separate from what, that allocated revenue that comes from sales tax, how much did the city say we want as a municipality increase the maintenance of effort? So I'm guessing if you said 200,000, so 4.8 is what the city decided we were going to increase the maintenance of effort.
So the city decided to increase the maintenance of effort by 5 million. So if we're doing that, even though the sales tax is budgeted to be 200,000 less. So really, it's 5.2 million from other sources of revenue.
Okay.
Really being
So the projected sales tax is going to come at 200 less.
correct.
I see. So, okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
200 less, but the city still is on the hook to give the additional 200,000.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. I don't remember. Did we talk about, did you discuss, I'm sorry, because I was taking so many notes, so I don't see any notes here about any capital projects that are currently
Look at Sinead's face.
underway. Besides the Sonia Sotomayor School, what other capital projects are currently being proposed for this budget or currently under the works under this budget?
So Mr. Clark can provide additional information on that, but there's one large project that will start this summer, and that's Westchester Hills 29. Westchester Hills 29 is one of those schools where the board and the administration decided that we were going to do significant investment because we have a beautiful community there with our young people in the spectrum. And we wanted to ensure that they have the best facilities possible. If you go by, it has an incredible parking lot now, and we did all the outside. This summer is phase 2, thanks to you bonding the money for that project, where we're going to do the HVAC and most of the interior work that needs to be done in preparation to doing the windows of that building. And we're doing the roof in that school as well. But Mr. Clark, can you please add on what I said and any other project that we might be working on?
Yeah, well, you stole my son to School 29, so we're doing high-tech security,
more than
4 buildings this
Westchester
summer.
Hills.
I'm sorry. There's also some noise coming from outside, yeah.
In addition
wanna
to
make sure that area is
29,
nice.
which is part 2 of 3,
Near the Chick-fil-A.
we'll be doing, hold on a second, I got the wrong chart in front of me. We got high-tech security going in 4 buildings as we speak. We just awarded 4 schools for the installation of high-tech security. We got a very good contractor and great bids on that. So that will be starting as soon as we can get the paperwork done.
And how does the cost of that project?
Those are about $1 million a school.
Wow, 4 million.
How many schools?
4.
What's this
Okay.
high-tech security for 4 million?
And let's see. Can't find that sheet. There's several jobs we're following up from last year, like Horton High School. We're installing an elevator. That'll be finished this year. We're working on the garage at MLK, which is in a state of near failure. So we'll be doing some temporary work on that. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the other ones.
All the work that needs to be done.
So we're doing high-tech security on 9, 14, 15, and 22. We finalizing the playground at Dodson, right?
Those are for next year.
Those are for next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're doing about $10 million worth of work this year. This is what was bonded.
$10 million worth of capital?
$10 million. That's what was bonded last year. We put all of that work out for bid, and it's in construction right now.
Let's get a list of those companies that won the bid.
About the 30 million. For next
Let's take a
year,
look at that.
2024, we plan on doing about $30 million worth of work. We have 17 jobs that are all designed, and we already have building permits for them. That's about $45 million worth of work. They're called biddable and ready to go as soon as we get the cash. We're selecting from those as to which ones are the most appropriate to do next summer. But we'll have work for the next couple of years at the rate we're going. We also have one very large project that probably needs some special attention, and that's the addition at School 28. It's a 13 classroom addition we designed based around the Smart Schools Bond Act reimbursement money, which was designed to eliminate any modular classrooms and to add pre-K space to the Yonkers district. That school and School 30 were selected. School 28 is designed, it's ready for bid, we just need the funding. School 30, we've had problems with the designer, they don't want to work with us, we don't want to work with them, so we're back to developing a relationship with a new architect on that particular job.
And I just want to,
We'll be doing 4 more, that summer we'll be doing another 4 schools for high-tech security, and we'll be building a lot of playgrounds.
Bids.
Okay,
I understand just on the Khalil Gibran project.
yes.
Khalil Gibran project,
I'm
I
hearing
think
that
it's,
that's an area to investigate.
it's such a fantastic project, which will not cost a significant amount of money to the city. Because when you think of the amount of reimbursement, and you think about the fact that we have some smart bond money for that project might cost the taxpayers of Yonkers about $4 million, if not less, when you think of the overall reimbursement and everything else. However, to start that project, we need to borrow $20 million to be able to start that project. But I think it's going to, in my professional opinion, is going to significantly improve the way Khalil Gibran looks for that community, and it includes a field that can be used by the community at large, and it includes another playground as well, and it eliminates the modular classroom, and it includes improvement to the traffic in that area, which, if you are ever in that area, is a very concerning area. It's a very concerning situation every morning and every afternoon because of the traffic. So I hope that the council at some point would truly evaluate that project and let us try to get Khalil Gibran done and allow that school to be a model school for the children who attend school in that area.
Thank you. So, I guess from the capital project, so let's go back a little bit to the maintenance effort. How much of that money, I guess, will be used for the additional classroom?
The maintenance of effort is not utilized for capital projects.
Right, it goes for educational services and
Right,
expenses, right, operations.
Operation and debt services.
Right, so from those capital projects, because I know the majority is the Soto y Sonia Mayor School. And then, then you mentioned the high-tech learning and the elevator, but the elevator for me, that's not really the classroom. How many of those capital projects are, for the classroom, for the student services?
Well, first, just a quick clarification. You already bonded for Sonia Sotomayor, so it's not part of this $30 million request.
Okay.
The $30 million request for us for next year, when I look at it, I think everything has to do with classroom or direct student services, because, for instance, we want to do the heat plant and the roof and the windows at Khalil Gibran. It's another beautiful school doing exceptionally well, but you see how old the building is, and there are clear improvement that can be done. I mean, we want to do the windows at School 32. We want to work at School 29, finalizing the project at School 29. We have 4 schools for high-tech security out of the $10 million, out of the $30 million. We want to do the kitchen and playground at Pearls, Hawthorne Pearls. We want to do the windows in the turf field at Saunders.
Okay, I mean, I guess definitely playgrounds and turf field, I guess from my definition, I understand. But I don't disagree that windows and roofing, it is important for the classroom learning conditions. So absolutely. I guess I was specifically trying to see how much of that really, for a student, right, could be quantified, which maybe they don't necessarily see, the effects of a new window, but we know because heating costs and in general, the condition of the learning environment is.
I think the important point, Councilwoman, that comes out of your question is the fact that the quality of our schools has a direct impact on students feeling comfortable in school and our staff, and also it allows for learning to take place in a more effective manner. I mean, if the air quality is better, if the building is not cold because we have no windows, it's directly impacting our children and their learning.
Absolutely, and that's something that we've heard directly from parents, that either some properties are either very, very harshly cold or scorching hot. Yep. And that's, probably given the infrastructure and the 82 average age of many of our schools, as you mentioned.
And like that for a long time.
Just add, actually, in section 2, page 2, it kind of outlines the maintenance of effort, the sales tax, but it also includes the debt service contribution, which is exclusive of the maintenance of effort, which is also an amount that the city pays for all bonded debt expenses. So the amounts that make it bonded here are proposed to be capitalized going forward. When it's time to actually pay the principal and interest costs on those back, the city also commits to paying those costs at this time. That's what's proposed in the 24 budget. So that amount is an additional $27.8 million. So that makes the whole amount, the combined two amounts at the bottom, $291.2 million that's being transferred from the city to the Board of Ed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I elaborate on that for a second, too? When the building aid comes back, in most of the other districts, the big 5, the reimbursement of the state money is used to pay debt service. In Yonkers, that's not the case. As Mr. Jacobson just pointed out, the city pays the debt service for the schools. The only exception to that is the Sonia Sotomayor School, because of the legislation that was written.
Can you put the mic closer to you?
Sure.
Yes.
The Sonia Sotomayor School, because the legislation has to be paid from the Board of Ed. But everything else, all the other debt service for the city, or for the Board of Ed, is paid for by the city. Part of the maintenance, the city does agree to pay the debt service for the Board of Education. So if we look at in the proposed capital budget, say $30 million, and you recall during the capital budget meeting we had, for every $10 million now, we anticipate $1 million in debt service. So that would be an additional $3 million that would be added to the expenses that have to be absorbed and paid for.
Right. It's our debt. So I completely understand, and I think it is our responsibility to take it on as one of the main funders of the Yonkers public school system. So thank you so much, Commissioner. Appreciate you. And thank you so much, Dr. Quesada, for your time. Thank you, Madam Council President.
Primary defund.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Majority Whip, Rubo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Dr. Quesada, for coming and your presentation, for all of your hard work with our school system. I know that at my child's school, my children's school, they get art and music twice a week. I get yelled at if he's not there at 7:35 because he needs to be in for art. And he gets very excited for art and music. And so thank you for committing to the arts and to these other school activities that really make our children so rounded and provide them with the education that they do receive here in Yonkers. The casino opened in 2006. And so in today's purchasing power, 19.6 million is 29.5 million. And so that additional $10 million a year, I'd have to assume that the casino is generating and continues to send up to the state of New York in video lottery money, has increased. And so hopefully Yonkers will see a full gaming license. Hopefully that money will continue to come into our school system and to support all of the city services that are required and needed to support the community that the casino is serving, which is the district that I represent. A few questions. In the budget here, there's summer school contingency for $7.1 million. That's something that appeared to be new, unless I didn't see that under the correct line. That $7.1 million, what was that for?
It's part of our contingency plan for unsettled contracts.
Okay, got it. Inter-service training, and that was on page,
they never talk about how Nick's panel represented the casino, which is why we got such a low number, and never adjusted for the increase.
But that had increased by $10 million.
Increase in
the total line. Can you just go through the inter-service training and exactly? I'll give you the exact page.
Is that in my budget presentation?
It is.
Already,
yeah.
John. You've been saying that for how long now?
It's on 3.5. Sorry. And it goes down to teaching in regular schools totals. Sorry, it was teaching in regular schools totals for, and that increase was by $10 million. So obviously these are the instructional pays for non-instructional teachers, for teachers, for support staff. That $10 million increase, does any of that take into account, and this is going back just over the course of 2 years, but that $10 million increase seems fairly substantial, having only extended the contracts for the teachers for 1 year. So what else is built into this $10 million increase over 2 years?
They go
Can you
through
tell
this.
us that page again one more time?
Yeah, sure. It's
not Liam McLaughlin's
3-5. Yeah. So in just 2 years ago, it was 180 million. Now we're up to 190 million.
He didn't ask that kind of question when it came to Liam McLaughlin. He just said, hey, well, what did you spend money on? What investigations did you actually do? This is the most prepared.
So it's 2110 teaching regular schools total.
Oh, so there you have textbooks, you have software, you have furniture. All of that is appropriated as part of that increase. More than anything.
So 2110, isn't that just teaching? It looks like instructional salaries, staff salaries,
Right.
Non-instructional aides and monitors.
Right.
What about your aid
So
that
that's a
makes all that
summary of
money,
account
John Rubo?
2110.
Right.
which is all related to teaching regular schools, which are services that we provide in our 40 schools.
Right.
So it's a combination of all of our schools and the services that we provide. And the increase that you see there is the textbook that we brought it into this line. It's software, it's furniture. And then the increase is in salary for the most part.
Like every other department, John.
So you see an increase to charter school.
Right.
So you see an increase there.
Don't even
So I see
entertain
the
this man.
$2.5 million for textbooks.
Right.
And that increased by roughly 900,000 over 2
John,
years.
You're not even giving a real question. What's the question, John?
Foster tuition as well, Councilman Rubo, is also an increase.
Cost of tuition.
So the 10 million is kind of multiple accounts going up by a little bit, but bear in mind that, 10 million on 180 million is not a massive percentage increase. Considering that we have certain mandated costs like the charter schools, cost of tuition costs, the textbooks.
Yeah.
So
He
it
has
kind of
an
all
agenda.
adds up to get closer to that number.
Okay.
Just to be clear, the increase is about $6 million from 184,738 to 195,616. I just want to make sure that we're looking at the same numbers.
Right, from year to year. I'm just looking at the course of 2 years.
year to year.
Seeing that we haven't settled the contracts. I know we did an extension for a year, but I was just curious why that had increased by 10 million.
The increase here is associated with those accounts that I reflected
Okay.
with you, and then charter school tuition as well, which is going up, and then the other amount, the
Foster tuition.
foster tuition as well.
Foster,
So
okay,
this is not a salary account necessarily.
okay. And maybe this is a
Teachers,
question
you hear this guy.
for finance, but is the school district under the same new guidelines for debt service? I do see a few things like copiers that were moved out.
Yes.
Okay.
I love how they're asking questions that they should have known
And
already.
in here, it mentions contractual expense purchased services. What exactly are those lines?
They should know this. Don't you guys
And it
look at these
appears on
budgets?
multiple,
It's your primary responsibility,
multiple
John. How
lines.
long you been there?
Councilman, the Board of Ed's budget does not break down the 400s that you would see in the city's budget where, we itemize it through 40 different account types. The contractual is anything where we're sort of using an outside vendor. And so it's kind of summed up together as opposed to the city where we go ahead and break it into 40 different ways so the council can see exactly what we're spending it on. And a lot of what you see here is based off a standard, New York State uniform set of accounts for contractual services. They don't ask that each type of contractual service be broken out the way we do it on the city to try to be even, more elaborate when we deal with the council.
Okay.
So that's the reason. It's sort of like the 400s equivalent on the city side.
And what's
Thank
the
you.
point of the question, John? What is it that you're trying to understand?
Line 5540, contract for transportation special education. So in 2022, 2023, the adopted budget was just shy of 24 million. Proposed for 23, 24 is 30 million. Is that transportation strictly for special education
Wow.
students? Is that both in district and out of district?
Last question in
Correct.
special
Okay.
education.
Am I?
Oh, you are special.
So I see here you have district transportation 3 million, but below that line. So how much of that? And I may be missing it here. If I am, I apologize. How much of that is for out of district transportation?
We're gonna have to disaggregate that for you.
Okay. Are we reimbursed the same amount for in-district as out-of-district transportation?
Pretty much so.
And is that 64%?
Approximately 66, I believe, is the current proposed rate up at the state for this year.
Okay.
Not enough.
No,
I
I'd
think
say.
the other sister cities are in the 90s.
I mean, hey, listen, the
90%
state gives you
plus.
64%. I mean, you guys got to put in something.
And that, in some of the quick math that I did here, so I did it based on 64% on $51 million. at 32 million. But even at 80%, that's 40 million. That's an $8 million difference. $8 million goes a long way, and you can stretch $8 million a long way in this budget, as you have for many years. Do you find that we have enough bus monitors? I've heard from some parents, especially students with special needs that have special needs, they need more bus monitors at certain times of the day. Do you find, is there also a shortage in being able to find available bus monitors?
A significant shortage.
Okay.
Of bus monitors, particularly the ones that we employ. Sometimes the companies have a better way of bringing those monitors than we do, so they also share on the monitors. One of the issues that we're having, in addition to the shortage in monitors, is that the challenges that our students are presenting is forcing them to leave the job as well.
What does that mean?
Right. So it's we can talk about stories that would allow anyone to walk away from the position of a bus monitor.
Sure.
Because the challenges are significant. But the fact is that, it's one of those, it's one of those positions where the best way to do it is by having the person also work for the school system as a full service employee or as a school aide.
Right.
And
Here's an
sometimes
idea.
we don't have enough
Put all the
positions
family
for
and
school
friend
aides.
network people to be bus monitors.
500 bus monitors that we might need.
Right. Okay. In the budget here, there is a line for a transfer to Joint School Construction Board. So that line basically goes from $1 million to $4.5 million. Is that something we're going to see going forward? And I'm assuming that's to pay for the Sotomayor School, Sonia Sotomayor School, excuse me. So we'll see that for the distant future. Into the distant future. Okay, thank you. Does that amount increase?
If you build three schools, you're going to see more money.
Right.
That is needed to that account, because the bill calls for the building of three schools, and I know that the mayor wants to build the next school, so I hope that you will support the mayor as we embark on that project. But the idea is to have three schools that are associated with the JSCB.
I would like to know, how much money do we truly need to bring back
5 schools
the
if
things
we
that
can
we're missing?
get
What is it that we're missing?
reimbursement
What is it that we really need?
amount back
How
up
do we
to
find
where
solutions?
what Buffalo received. If we get 98% reimbursement, I'm sure we could commit to more than that.
Those cities they're talking about,
we've discussed
are
this
some of the
on the city
poorest in the
side, health
country.
insurance.
They don't
And
pay
this
their
was a discussion
DPW
that you
guys
had with
$150,000, $200,000
folks in the state.
in Buffalo. That's why the
Here in this budget, it goes from roughly 102 million to 115 million. And that number just continues to increase year after year after year. And that is certainly a big portion of the increase that we see here. So how else are we tackling this in the school system? And if it comes down to negotiations with the bargaining units and you can't speak about it, I understand. I totally understand, but I just want to try to get an understanding of how we're maybe going to tackle this going forward.
I think what's important to note is that the cost of health insurance continues to go up, and it will continue to go up. I mean, employee benefits for us is going up over 7%. Health insurance in the past 2 years went up like 14%.
Right.
It went down a little bit, by like 2.7% recently. But still, that means that health insurance in the past 2 years is 12% over the cost from the previous years. We don't see health insurance going down. We want it to go down. We offer our employees a very a quality health insurance plan, and it's very costly. An individual plan for us is a little bit over $16,000, and a family plan is almost $38,000. So it's a very costly proposition.
Do you offer a buyout for employees that may go on to a spouse's program?
It's stated in the contracts, in the CBAs of the bargaining units. So the answer is yes.
Do you know offhand what those amounts are?
We could probably get that information for you. And if I hear your question correctly, is the number of individuals who do not take our health insurance because they are receiving a health insurance from someone else.
I'd also be curious if that amount increased, the buyout amount increased, if more people that work for the Board of Education, or even the city for that matter, would go on to a spouse's program.
Mm-hmm. We could generate that information for you.
Thank you. The deficit financing, the almost $5 million in here, that drops off next year. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
After FY25. So FY26 will be the first year where you will not see it, Councilman.
26. Okay, thank you. Dr. Quesada, if we were to take early childhood support and look from birth to 4, how much more would it require? And you may not have all of the data to know those numbers, but have you looked at that? Is that something that the district has looked at to look for additional funding from the state? You mentioned earlier, reading a book to a child even before birth makes an impact in a child's life. So, a child is born, they reside here in the city of Yonkers with their family. And have you ever, in your time as superintendent, taken a look at what it would take for the city to play that role? Not play a role, but to offer support to families
the kids that
and
are 3 and 4
people
into
who
UPK.
want to go to work,
How are they gonna do
and we
0
want
to
to be able
3
to help educate children from birth.
I don't, council member, I don't think that's a very costly proposition, because the city of Yonkers is a resource-rich community, and as the councilwoman indicated early on, this type of education cannot just be left to the schools. We have hospitals that can assist with that information. We have community-based organizations that can assist with that. Now, we certainly going to utilize some of the money that came from the Obama Foundation to do some of that work in the next 2 years. We are applying for another grant that comes from New York State. That if we commit to addressing the 6 milestones of MBK, they give like $300,000 a year for like 4 years. So the question is, can we get the other organizations in the city to be able to collaborate with us, to be able to share information as to who will the new mothers be, and bringing them together and providing information. It's not a lot of work. It's having the human capital to be able to do it, and then having individuals to volunteer to do this work. And I think we are a community that will have those individuals.
Qualified
Thank
people
you.
that actually know what they're
Can
doing.
you go into any more detail on the new school at the former Rising Ground property? When you think that may be up and running? Is it the 2024 school year, or 24-25 rather, or is it 25-26?
So as you know, this is a private-public partnership. The Board of Education signed a lease to utilize the school, the facilities, to open a 6-12 school. The principals in Great Point Studio are very committed to having the school ready to go. We just have to be careful on how expeditious we are with the process. Because number one, we have to make sure that we receive all the approvals that are needed for the purpose of reimbursement. The last thing we want to do is for them to build the school, for us to open the school, and then for New York State to say, you did not follow all of the required protocols, therefore we are not reimbursing you for the cost of the lease. The cost of the lease is significant.
Wow.
So we want to make sure that we receive the 70%, 74, whatever it is, reimbursement associated with it, because if not, it's going to be way too costly for us. Now, whether it is September 24 or September 25, the school district already has a draft of what the school will be. I have a team that's been working on it for almost a year. We have all that information ready to go. So whenever we're ready, we will have students in grades 6 through 12 that will follow 3 different magnets or themes in that particular school, and the school will be preparing students to take on jobs in the film and television industry, in the studios that are being built here. And that's the intent. So again, the commitment is there from the BOE who signed the lease. The commitment is there from the principals at Great Point Studio, and we have the whole draft of what the school will be ready to go. One of the things that the Board of Education and the Joint School Construction Board will have the opportunity of doing is when you open Sonia Sotomayor and when you open the school over at in that location, you will have the opportunity to consider closing some schools that are over 100 years old. You might want to say maybe this school should not be in operation anymore. So you might have those flexibilities, but those are conversations that the board and the administration will have in terms of how to put that
the
together.
amount of students we have.
Thank you.
We need to build more, not take away.
While I have the floor, I want to thank you. Running a school of 26,000 students is no easy task. There are many municipalities who in Westchester County that don't even have 26,000 residents. And you've run have run a very large school.
So really quick, in regards to that school at Lionsgate, I think that's just a sales job. They're just giving, folks hope about this school for students that's going to be, with Lionsgate, and they're going to provide all these jobs. Folks, I know people in that business, and I've spoken to people that I just met, in passing, and they're in the business. And I asked them the question, is it easy to get into? And they say, no, it's very tough to get into, and so when people get into it, they don't want to let that job go. They have to get into a union. So my question is why didn't the city buy the land, right? Build, and then let Great Point and all that build the stuff, because Great Point is the construction company that builds the studio. Lionsgate leases the studio. So it's like a 3-part deal. You have Joe Cotter, who buys the land. Great Point Studios is the company that builds movie studios, and then they lease it to movie production companies like Lionsgate or MGM, whatever, whatever, any other movie company. I don't really know all those movie companies, right? But Lionsgate is one of them that produces movies. And so that's basically what they're doing. Sure, Lionsgate has his name on it, but they don't own the land. They don't own the movie studio. They're just renting it. And so that's what happened over there at the Ludlow Park area with the old Leak and Watts property. Joe Cotter bought this property for over 50. I even heard 90, but I think it's $50-some million even before. And as you heard Dr. Quesada talk about permits, right? They still waiting for permits, seeing if things are going to get approved. Why would this man buy a piece of land, spend over $50 million, and he doesn't even know if he's going to get permit approvals for this, right? They had to first change the zoning laws, right? So first that had to happen, which it did because Joe Cotter is, paying them. So they changed the zoning laws like they're doing everywhere in Yonkers. So now he's able to build all these movie studios on that land, right? But now he's waiting permits, which of course we know is going to get pushed through because of Sam the Man Borelli. Come on, folks. I just keep it honest with you. This is what happens, how it works. You want to know the truth, or you want me to lie to you? Okay, so I'm going to tell you the truth. So Sam the Man Borelli is going to get the permits through, although they're going to play that game. But it's not an issue of permits, okay? That's going to be the delays. It's really an issue is if the city going to go through. I mean, they signed a 20-year, and I'm sure they have an out, a 20-year lease, a very expensive lease, right? So why didn't they buy the land? Say, hey, Great Point Studios, you guys can build the studio, and while you're at it, build us the schools. Otherwise, Joe Cotter and you guys, whatever, on Lionsgate, we're not going to give you permits for anything anywhere in the city. So either you're going to help us buy this land, right, because you're going to give us a nice little donation for allowing you to build all these other studios up, okay? And then you're going to build the school for us. Okay, we're going to build a nice size school, and then you could build your movie studios, Great Point, and then Lionsgate, you can lease whatever with them, but you guys ultimately have to lease it from us, the city. So imagine the amount of money the city would have been generating from the lease of that land to Lionsgate Studio and Great Point Studio and all these people for building on it and doing what they do. Think about that. And then we could have full control of the school. It would have been a real school that's part of the Yonkers Public School District, right? Along with a partnership of these private entities. But what's really happening here, folks, it's the old bait and switch, okay? I believe that Syracuse, right? Syracuse is supposed to be a part of this. They're supposed to be opening up their satellite film school, right? And Syracuse is a very expensive school. Who has ties to Syracuse? I believe the mayor may have gone to Syracuse, or some Spanos, man. Did the mayor go? I thought they said they were there. Never mind. But anyway, so Syracuse plans on also having their school there. So is it really for the Yonkers public school kids? How much are they going to benefit? When you heard the mayor, he talked about, oh, they're going to be walking among the actors and all that. It's a dream that he's selling to you folks for this year's election, but he wants to deliver. We don't even know when. Think about this before you vote for him. Where have you ever paid for something, right? And then they tell you, I'll send it to you whenever it's ready. I'm not sure when, but you have to give me the money up front, right? Give me your vote and then I'll produce the results whenever. We'll see if they happen, actually, right? Would you do that? Would you give them your money and hope that you get what you paid for in a year or two? And if it does come, it's exactly what you anticipated? No one's going to do that, right? We want to know. We want guarantees. We want dates, right? And they haven't given us this. Yet we've given them everything. We've given them the zoning changes. We've given them the permits. We've given them the land. We've given them the tax breaks. And what has the people of Yonkers received? Not a damn thing. Lies, promises, empty promises. They want this fourth term. That's what it's all about. And they allow these people to take Yonkers over, pushing essentially those who live here out in one way or another, or becoming a burden on the people that are here in one way or another. And we're all supposed to be happy about this. Listen very closely to what they say. John Rubo asking, should we fund 0 to 4-year-old? You can't even fund the 3 and 4-year-olds you have now, or can you? Because it's a fact that parents were told by the Board of Education that vendors had no more spaces in their UPK programs or within their UPK vendors. Although that was not true because they knew very well that we had plenty of space at the time. And so they allowed these parents to believe this, their children not being placed in a UPK program, as you heard Dr. Quesada just say how important it is to start to introduce that to children as early as possible, and that we need to do more to get more going earlier. Yet they purposely did that to hurt my business, because eventually they would send more parents. And parents told this, and they signed, affidavits stating that this was what they were told. We were told that they didn't have any more money when we said, hey, we have space. So you intentionally hurt these children, some of them needing speech therapy. You have to hear Leah now. When the parents came to us many months after the school year started, after they were told there was no more space, but hey, miraculously, we found space in Little Prodigies. We did know that they had space, but we wanted to screw them over. But Leah is a chatterbug. So that's what bothers me. That's what makes me so angry. That's where my passion to continue no matter what comes from. They sit there and act like they care. They're a bunch of POSs. I'm so sorry to say it that way. And I don't care what you try to do to me or my wife. We've made sure we crossed our T's and dotted our I's from day one. And one thing I love to do is showing people the liars that they are. And so I've learned how to protect ourselves. I told my wife from day one, you must protect yourself, because you never know when they may say something that's not true, false accusations. And so we'll see. I'm not going to go anywhere, even if you guys retaliate on my wife and me. I'm still going to be here, and I'm only going to go harder to find the information and present it to the people. Do what you want. But everyone is going to get exposed, no matter what happens to me. That's a fact, because this deserves to be exposed. You see what they're doing here? They're not really asking any real questions. The only one that did was Corazon, and that's because she is now challenging the mayor. She wants to show people the truth. They can tell you what the ratio was to the staff, or the staff that's needed to students. The IEPs is a huge problem. Many parents have complained about the IEPs and not receiving their services, which is a violation of the law. You know how many lawsuits the city of Yonkers could be facing if many of these people were savvy enough, had the resources to pursue lawsuits? Like, I mean, you guys have no idea just how much, has been going on here in the city of Yonkers that's been hurting us, that's been, just, it's like a bubble that's just been waiting to burst, and they're trying to save it now with all these developments. That's what they're doing. Look how old our schools are. They haven't built a new school in 20 years. We're over by 4,000 capacity. And now we have migrants coming in with children, and the mayor's calling them refugees. He's saying we have to take in the refugees because the mayor's looking at the money that comes along with the refugees. He doesn't care about the people. They're dollar signs. They're potential new voters one day. They're going to appreciate the corrupt individuals that are doing this, that are paying for this using taxpayer money. They cleared out homeless Americans from hotels in order to house homeless foreigners. That's crazy to me. Parents out in the street, a mother with a child here in Yonkers was told to leave. Another man in another city changing his son on a bench after he was kicked out of their hotel. Homeless Americans, homeless veterans being kicked situations for homeless foreigners. That's outrageous. If you don't believe we're under attack as a country, then you're not paying attention. War is different these days. You're not going to see armies, storming the beaches, of Orchard over there, Jones Beach, the Chinese or the Russian. No, it's technology. It's economics. That's how they destroy countries now. And that's what they're doing. Who's paying for these buses? Bus loads of people. I mean, I've shown video, buses, one after the other, full of migrants heading to the border. It's like somebody's calling them. It's like there's been an announcement, a post somewhere, a billboard up in all these countries like, hey, go to America. They're going to put you in the Ramada up in Yonkers, Westchester County, one of the richest counties in the country. That may change. That may change. Who wouldn't come? And the mayor Spano's calling them refugees. Are they refugees? What are they fleeing from? I don't get it. And this is not about race. This impacts all Americans, black, brown, white, yellow, red, green, purple, and orange. And it impacts minorities the most, minority Americans, because the migrants come here and they don't go to Scarsdale. They're not going to Bronxville. They're not going to Hastings. They're not housing them on the east side over there. No. And what schools do they go to? The public schools. The public schools here in Yonkers, that's 77% minority, which is also 75% poor. 75% of the American students that are here in the public schools already are impoverished. And so now they're being, forced to compete with even more impoverished people that look like them, a lot of them. Like, it's crazy. Like, so the jobs, the low-skilled jobs, and hey, look, I get it. I'll be honest, as a business owner, you know what? Americans have gotten lazy. And so everything that's happening in this country, you could blame Biden, you could blame Trump, you could blame Mike Spano, you could blame Shanae Williams, you could blame Corazon, you could blame any elected official you want. But ultimately, you have to blame yourself. We weren't paying attention, and we still not, many of us. We're so focused on Facebook and the like. Give me a like. Look at my new outfit. Let's fight over transgender. You know, I want to fight for the right for a 70-year-old to cut his balls off because his mother says he's a girl. You ever heard of Munchausen syndrome? There's a show on TLC. Forget the boy's name. This is Jess, I think. It started when he was a young boy and his mother said he feels like he's a girl. He just doesn't feel himself. And so the mom puts this boy, her son, through a sex change. And now the boy is a teenager. Without being too graphic, he went and got the change where he creates an opening. However, this opening closes if you don't insert something into it every day. And so there's a scene that I saw, I don't know what site it was on, where the boy, who's now a girl, or thinks, wanted to be a girl, is alone, well, with the mom crying, the camera's a little bit away, and he's saying, I just want to feel like, he's still confused. Even with the sex change, he doesn't want to insert this in his, anymore. But the mom is like, oh, if you don't do it, I'm going to come in there at night and insert it in you. That's what the mom says. Instead of getting this boy help when he needed it at a very young age, she saw an opportunity to be on a show. And we continue to promote this, and we are spreading mental health, illnesses. And then they create a straw man argument, right? Crisis at the border is about racism. No, it's not. A man or a woman goes into a school or a church and kills everybody. It's about the guns. No, it's not. People are cutting their penises off and pretending to be women because they don't feel they were born really a woman. It's just the physical doesn't match. No, they're not. I'm sorry to say this, and I'm not being disrespectful to anybody. I didn't mean to get into this conversation or this topic. But we are dealing with mass mental health issue that's being perpetuated through social media. The other day, I saw a limbless transgender, a man with no arms and legs who's a transgender. But is it really body dysmorphia? I mean, people are born believing that their legs don't belong to them, so they want to cut it off. We don't let them do that, do we? Because no, we say, no, you need your legs. People who are anorexic believe they're fat. And so they continue to harm themselves. Should we allow people to continue to harm themselves because we want to be politically correct? Because it's a trend? I have experienced this within my own family. A cousin of mine who was straight, was gay, went back to straight, went back to gay. I think she's straight now. But what I do know about her is that she's lost. Her father's never been in her life. She's always had body, self-confidence and insecurity issues. And at some point, When someone gives that person attention and what they perceive to be love, they grasp it and hold on to it. It's like an abused person, right? They get abused and they don't let go. So, folks, it's time we start paying attention to what the hell is going on. Get off the Facebook, or at least get on it for, productive reasons. Educate yourself. Know who your elected officials are. Understand what they're talking about. Otherwise, what we're going to get here in this country is going to be our fault. We did nothing about it. We stood by. Some of us complained. A guy created a podcast, right? We did nothing about it. I don't know if America is done. I like to have hope, but I do know within my faith that we have to go through the darkest of times before we get to the best of times. And so for that, I'm concerned for my kids' future and my grandchildren. I hope that we can, tell the truth. Thank you, And again, so back to the migrants, it's not about race. It's about the impact that it has on the communities. As a Puerto Rican growing up in the hood, poor, my grandparents didn't really speak the language. I could see people look down on us, and yeah, they were white, but I didn't grow up believing every white person was a racist, right? I just knew that I had to get my together and make sure I'm in a position where nobody, I don't care what color they are, is going to talk down to me or disrespect me or, have an influence on my life like they're trying to do now that will hurt me. And so that's what we all need to do. We have to get in a position and we have to teach our kids to be strong and do for themselves and have accountability. Be responsible. Educate yourself. Learn. We're so much into this other stuff with transgender, and I'm not just trying to pick on transgender. I'm not, I don't believe that their rights should be taken away. Anyone's rights. They can do whatever they want. That's their business. I just don't think it's okay to promote it on a mass scale and to make it a central point or a central topic, of discussion when there's so many other important things that are going to be so much more impactful to all of us than whether or not some guy decides he wants to cut his penis off and he dressed like a woman. That's his business. But do not start having transgender library readings with kids. I mean, just naturally, there's a lot of sexual innuendos with it, right? I mean, even a woman, a real woman, you're not going to go into a library and read with kids, with a, like lingerie type of stuff on. I'm just saying, so even with that, so just, why does it have to be so, and I've seen videos, of men thrusting themselves and all that in front of kids. Like, what is that? That's not okay. That's just not okay. That just, and I've seen this, that leads to, promiscuous, individuals, men and women at an earlier age, and then what happens is you then have a baby at an early age, then that kind of sidetracks you. That's not guaranteed, because I don't want people that had children young to say, Freddie, well, I get it. Some people will be successful, but I'm just speaking statistically, right? Statistically, you are more likely to do well, be successful in life if you educate yourself, marry first, have kids, right? Have your career first and then have kids stuff. Your kids will do better statistically. And I've seen that outside of Yonkers where, Black, whites, and Hispanics did well. So, and you see mom and dad, it's so important. So we need to stop focusing on all this other side noise, see what's really happening, get involved, know what's going on in politics, know what they're talking about, know what's going on in your child's school. We need to be more involved. Some places, they don't even try none of this because the parents will come out. They're not going to, no way, right? And we need to be that way here in Yonkers. We need to come out. Right? We could do the Facebook comments. That's cool. We could do the Facebook posts. That's cool. But we need to be at those meetings. You see those empty seats back there? I mean, we care about our kids' education, don't we, folks? Right? I like to think that we do. And I'm just going to put it on all of us. We care about it, right? Look how empty that place is. Look how empty that is. as bad as the condition of the Yonkers public schools is, we should be all packed at this meeting right now, demanding that they find the money, not only to provide the necessary staff, but also and services, but also the money to repair these buildings and not be forced to have to make a choice between repairing and removing the mold that's there and fixing the heater so the kids don't freeze to death in the class, or hiring a much needed school administrator, school social worker, teacher, guidance counselor, gym teacher, music teacher, right? And they're still lacking in both areas, right? They don't have all the full extracurricular activities, and they don't have the greatest of schools. So they're still breathing in the mold while not having a robust sports program, John. And I'm hungry. I got to go get me something to eat. I'm Freddie Vasquez, folks. You guys can finish watching the meeting. I'll leave it on. It's just, this is such an important meeting, but I do want to say thank you to Dr. Quesada. Say what you want, but the man comes prepared. I have a lot of respect. His presentation was, it's the best presentation in all the budget meetings. They sat there and tried to pick at him for different things. But the reality is the man was only able to do what he was able to do. Maybe he helps some Hispanics more than other people. I'm not sure. That's not okay. But, naturally we do things like that. But I'm going to tell you that that's not okay. All right. And so I do have a natural, affection for Hispanics and wanting to really help Hispanics. I don't want to say it's more than wanting to help white people. I just see that in my experiences, there's a need sometimes, to help Hispanics more because we are impoverished more and the statistics are there. So again, I base it on numbers, not emotion, logic and reason, not emotion. That's what we have to do. So, so I do. So I understand that. But thank you, Dr. Quesada. I can understand why you're about to get up out of here because shit might just really hit the fan for the 24-25 school year when, the money really runs out. And we'll see what happens then. Right. So this is important, parents. If you care, your kids is in school, we should be packing this place. Right. We should be there demanding that they fund it because they funded a lot of other crap that didn't need to be funded. They bonded. They did whatever they had to do to get it done. Right. They got the migrants up in here. Right. They pay for that. Right. They pay for the buses. They pay for the rooms. And guess what? The hotel is booked from now to February of 2024. So that hotel just scored a huge contract. You think they care what anybody got to say? But if you really feel some way about it, let's organize, go up there and rally. All we're saying is, hey, we have to say, got to go back. We have to send you back. We have to first fix what stuff is here. I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic. If you didn't come here the right way through the process, got to go back, Good try. You made it all the way to Yonkers, man. We got to give you that, So we're going to send you back in style, but you got to go back, right? You got to go back. Our schools, our community cannot handle it. We're trying to figure it out now. And that's what I'm saying. So we should be out there rallying for that and remembering this in the elections, how Mike Spano sold all of us out now. Many supporters of Mike Spanos are angry because some of them are racist. I'm just saying some of them. No, some of the racists, they don't want to see these, these immigrants coming here or whatever, right? So some of them are, so they're mad at Spano. And, others that are not racist, that just understand it the way I do, they are, upset with Spano. So this is going to hurt Spano. And remember that. Spano always goes for the money. He's always doing for what he, so got to vote for change. Got to vote for change. And I get it. Maybe you don't like the options, the alternatives, but there's always a write-in candidate option. And with that, we can choose whoever we want, pretty much. I think they have to be registered. But there are some good registered candidates out there, right? Hey, by the way, Xavier, did you get the surveillance on me? I can't wait to prove everybody right. I'm Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics. Have a beautiful day.